Hey guys, how you doing? Good. Hey, my name is Travis. I'm from Miami, Florida. So Miami's a lot warmer than Richmond, okay? It's way cooler. But anyways, I've been here in Richmond for about 5-6 years, something like that. And when I was a little kid, growing up in Miami, I played sports. I did a lot of sports. And I remember I was in the first grade, and my brain was just processing differently than everybody else. I remember just like being in class and somewhat understanding what the teacher was saying, but kind of processing in a different way. And I just kind of went through it up into the third grade, and I went to go see a specialist. And he told me that I have something called dyslexia. And for me, the way that it processed and worked for me is that I literally processed and understood things backwards. So I would read something and it'd be backwards. And I would say a sentence, and I would start with the last word, saying it first. For some reason, that's the way my brain worked. And I always remember just having a hard time in school. And I was in the fourth grade, and my grandmother was a teacher. And at that point, I couldn't read yet. And most of my classmates and most of my friends and my siblings, they knew how to read, and I didn't know how to read. And so I had a neighbor who was from Korea. And I was from Miami, so Miami's a lot of different nationalities living in one place, very diverse area. So I had this Korean person, we called him Mr. Miyagi. You guys ever seen Karate Kid? So for some reason, we called him Mr. Miyagi. And he was always outside doing stuff in the yard and making his yard was perfect. And one day my mom was frustrated with my grades, and she went to Mr. Miyagi and said, "Man, I'm just having a hard time with my son. Travis, he's having a hard time at school." And he said, "Well, send him over to my house once a day." And so I started this program at Mr. Miyagi's house called Hooked on Phonics. And Hooked on Phonics was we're supposed to read, it's like when you read something out loud and say it out loud. And that wasn't working for me at all. So Mr. Miyagi said, "You know what, I have something brand new for you. You're gonna do something called the rap reading, right?" So I learned how to read rapping songs, right? And so the first sentence, literally, I knew how to read. I was in the fourth grade, super behind. This is fourth grade. Travis, you are the best person I know. And Travis, you are the best person I know. And he would put a beat behind it. Travis, you are the best person I know. Travis, you are the best person I know. And so, when I went to school, I started rapping the books and the words I see on the screen or on the whiteboard. I start rapping them in my head. So I can say this: I learned how to read because of rap. Come on, that's pretty awesome, right? That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So I couldn't talk. I couldn't really talk. I stuttered a lot, and now my profession is that I travel around the nation. My profession is every Sunday there's about 500 people that come into a building, and they come and listen to me speak. But when you heard me in elementary school, I could not say 2 words without stuttering. It was a long time to get 2 sentences out. There would be times where I would try to get a sentence out, and my brothers and my siblings would be like, "Hey, hold up, I'm gonna go eat a sandwich real quick, and when I come back, by that time you have that sentence out, And they would give me a hard time. But I remember just saying to myself, there's just no way that I can ever be a speaker. There's just no way I can be a speaker, right? No way I can go talk to people and inspire people to be great and be better than themselves. And I realized that my dyslexia was not my disadvantage, but it was my advantage. It became the thing that I use to help me process. So I'm able to process differently, but in some ways I'm able to process quickly, right? And so it really allowed me to be a better speaker. It made me be a better person. And still to this day, whenever I'm on a stage, every single Sunday there's bright lights on me, and there's lots of people looking at me and expecting a lot from me every single Sunday. People coming from all different backgrounds. They come and hear me speak. And when I read backwards first, then I read forwards. So I read backwards in my head, and then I rap it forward first in my head, and then I say it out loud. So backwards first, rap it secondly in my head, and then I say it out loud. And that's every time I read the Bible or any type of literature, I'm reading backwards first, rap it forward in my head, and then I say it out loud. And that's still been my journey that I'm in And it's allowed me to be somebody who I'm able to overcome. And I just want to say to you guys, no matter what you have and what process and how you process differently, it does not determine who you can be. It does not determine where you can go. In fact, it is your greatest advantage that you will ever have is what the processing, the way that your brain processes. It is the greatest thing that you can ever have on this earth. I remember I was in college, and in college, I felt like I was so behind. And I was taking this class, it was a physics class, and physics was in the science category. And I knew science really well, right? When it comes to math and science, I was okay but when it came to reading, it was a hard thing. And it was in the science category, but I didn't know that physics was mostly math. And I remember going into physics class and dealing with all this stuff, and everybody just kind of, I felt like knew what to do. All my classmates, all my even roommates in college, they were study hard. It was a hard class, even for a normal processing person, but it was even more difficult for me. And I never forget, I was in a library at Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida, and it's a small little Christian school, and I was in a library there and just frustrated. Like, why am I not getting this? I'm working harder than anybody else. I'm putting more time into my study. What is going on? I was so frustrated with myself. And I never forget, that was one time there was a person who was walking there was this little girl who was walking, and I saw her, she was crying. And it was a Christian university, so I mean, most people want to care for people and check in on people. And I asked this young lady, what's the matter? What's going on? And at the same time, I'm frustrated. She said, I cannot get this. I am having a hard time with my speech class that I'm doing. And I was able to teach her, right? With her speech class, rapping her speech first. And she went in and crushed her speech and got an A on it, right? And in that moment, I realized that though I process differently, my lane that I'm running is so differently, but it's going to be a great lane. And I end up surviving physics class, graduating from college. And when I graduated from college, I said, okay, I kind of made it, Travis. You did it. You graduated high school, you graduated college. That is enough. You can never get a master's degree, especially with all that writing and reading. And if you want to get an MDiv, that is learning another language in Greek. You got to learn Latin. You got to learn some Aramaic and biblical Greek. There's just no way, Travis, you can do that. You are dyslexic. And that's the voices that will speak to you and tell you can't do it. Well, I ended up going to a school called Regent University in Virginia Beach. I went there and I got a master's degree, learning different languages. And all around, like even with Greek, so the cool part when you study Hebrew is you read backwards. So I had an advantage for everybody. I was faster than all of them. Like, come on, take that, come on. But I say that to say is that, nothing, the way that you process and the way that your brain works is your greatest advantage you will ever have. And it will never be a limitation to who you are. It may adjust how you do things. It may even adjust the time that you do things. And for me, I realized that it's made me work harder. And so I have a harder work ethic. And so I remember in college, I get up at 4 a.m. every single day in college and get ready and study a little bit longer because it took me longer to process things. But you know what? That work ethic now has gone into my life now. So still to this day, I still get up at 4 a.m. I go to the gym, I work out, and I start the day earlier than anybody else. Here's why. Because this discipline of having dyslexia has made me the harder worker that I am today. So I'll end with by saying this, I'll tell you a story. When I was in the 8th grade, there was this one girl that I really liked. Her name was Tanisha Coombs, right? And back in those days, like girls, you would wear beads in their hair, and it would make a whole bunch of noise when they walk around the whole hallway. And I never forget going to Tanisha Coombs, and I said, you know what? I told my friends when I was in 8th grade, I said one day I'm gonna get this girl's phone number. I'm gonna get a number. And at that time I couldn't talk well, so it was like, whatever. So I was going to Tanisha, and I had my friend, his name was Otis. I said, Otis, this is the day. Today's the day. I'm going to Tanisha Coombs. I never forget that day. At lunch, they served pizza, and they had sausages on pizza. They had corn on that day, and they had the peaches that come in the little cold peaches, whatever, diced peaches. That's what I had for lunch today. And normally I'm a white milk guy. On that day I said, I'm gonna get chocolate milk. Never forget it. So I walk in and to school and we go to lunch and we eat lunch and I said, Otis, this is the time. It's PE time. And I go to Tanisha and I said, Tanisha, I said, number can I get? She's like, what? I said, sorry, like, can I get your number? And I never get, like, she says, you're different. And I like that. And that was like a moment that I realized that, yeah, I might be different, but that's the way God made me. And that's the way that I'm crafted. And that's the way who I am. And so I just want to remind y'all with that. Like, you may be different, but he likes you. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people on this earth that likes you. And you're awesome. And so I just want to say, you guys are amazing people. Is that